the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open. Second.
All in favor? The Board of Education will move into executive session for the purpose of collective negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I have a motion to move into exec?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? The Board of Education will return at approximately 7 p.m.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting on February 26th. We're going to stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As everyone can see, we are at the Buchanan Verplank Elementary School tonight, and we're going to start with our recognition. Mr. Trombley has joined us virtually, and he's going to give an introduction. Right, or Dr. Kramer, I
think he wanted to say something.
might have wanted to say that.
Yes, thank you, President Mills. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our February 26th Board of Education meeting. We are here in our newly renovated cafetorium at BV. So I'm sorry I'm not able to join you in person, but I would like to turn it over to Dr. Cynthia Kramer for her to introduce some very special students who we're happy to recognize this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Trombley and Board of Education for inviting us to join you tonight. So every month we recognize at BV our Superstar Strong Sailors. And those are the students who their teachers recognize for kind of going above and beyond in personifying those strong traits. Our acronym STRONG stands for safe, team player, respectful, organized, neighborly, and grit. So each month, every teacher is welcomed to nominate one student, every classroom teacher, every special area teacher, every support teacher, and we typically have 15 to 20 students a month who are nominated. So this month, we also recognize them. We announce their names in our morning announcements. Their certificates are on the bulletin board outside the gym for the month. And they are recognized at our monthly PBIS assemblies that we have for the whole school as well. Since February was a short month, we did not have an assembly for the school, so we thought we would recognize them at tonight's board meeting since we were here for that occasion. So we invited our students to join us tonight. I think most of them are here. There are a few who couldn't make it, but I want to introduce President Mills. I believe she has certificates to present to the kids.
And Silverman's going to join.
Oh, and Vice President Mrs. Silverman. So kids, when I call your name, come on up, okay? We're going to go in alphabetical order by last name. So we're going to start with Nolan Criscuolo.
Do you want to have them stand up here? Yeah, why don't we have them stand up here and then we'll take a picture with everybody at the end. Okay. All right.
Stand up here, Nolan. Stand up.
Only if you stand by me, okay?
Lucas Diaz. I'm not sure if Lucas is here. Lucas couldn't make it tonight. We have Johan Jimenez. And Casey Johnson. Jack Hackett. I don't think Jack is here. He's been not feeling well this week. Calvin Liscaris. Daniel Montanani. Luis Munoz Tenalima. Ronald Panama. Nico Quishby. Casey Reyes Hidalgo. Kelsey Roberts. Scarlett Sheminsky. River Tompkins. River wasn't sure if he could make it. Olivia Wright. And Joseph Zinin.
Guys in straight line. Also, look, you're on TV over here, everybody.
So great big congratulations to these are our January nominees for Sailor Strong. Good job, guys.
All right, say cheese. Congratulations, everybody.
So I want to again commend our students for being Sailor Strong. Dr. Kramer, I appreciate the alliteration in your Sailor Strong program. I also want to reiterate. Oh, I'm sorry. Greg, are you able to hear me? Okay, thank you. So I want to take another moment to thank all of our students for being Sailor Strong. You represent those characteristics that we so value in your ability to be part of a fantastic educational community at Buchanan Verplank. I want to thank Dr. Kramer and her staff for taking the time to recognize students for doing and living out those characteristics which we expect them to. And parents, thank you for your support of your students when they come to our school, because we know how valuable that homeschool connection is. So thank you for your support in allowing them to be Sailor Strong, and also for your support in coming here tonight. So we do have a wonderful and very engaging and informative agenda tonight, if you'd like to stay for the rest of it. But if not, we can understand if you want to take a moment to leave the cafetorium and head out to celebrate some of your with the rest of your evening, or just go home and back to studying.
Thank you. We're going to start with the approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated? Motion to approve agenda. All in favor? Now's the time where we have public comments on non-agenda items. Does anyone sign up? Carmen?
No.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask the board if anyone has anything they'd like to remove from the consent agenda tonight. No? Okay. So that leads us to approving the consent agenda as stated. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated? Motion to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor? All right, then that brings us to hearing of the public on agenda items. No one signed up tonight? And now we move into our presentation and discussion, budget presentation for safety, security, and human resources.
Yes, so if you've heard me speak about a school budget, you've often heard me say the phrase that a school budget is not simply a balance sheet, it is a statement of our beliefs and values. So tonight, we also recognize the fact that a system needs to constantly change and adapt to best serve our students and the educational community. Tonight, you will hear from two departments that are brand new separate budgets, because they are, for the most part, newly defined within our district, even though some of the functions have been in different areas before, but they are newly defined as independent and have increased oversight and also activities within the district, and therefore require a budget to support that function. So tonight, I would like to introduce first Dr. Stephen Garcia, our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Leadership Development, to present his program and departmental budget for human resources functions throughout the district. And just a word on both of these presentations. Oftentimes, you will see a large budget to budget increase between last year's budget codes and this year's budget codes. And that is predominantly because we have reallocated the funds from one section of the budget where it might have been housed into a new budget code to better align to the specific function that is now being housed, in this particular case, in Dr. Garcia's budget, and then later on in Amanda Dolce-Moscolano's budget for safety and security. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Garcia for his presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having time for me to speak on my portion of the budget. I know that, if we move to the next slide, we always begin with the mission statement, which is really about children. Of course, our focus is always about the children, but as we look to the district's mission and how we support it, my role is to find ways that we hold the same expectations for our employees. So I just want to paraphrase this a little bit. And part of our mission statement now really is to ensure that each education professional is engaged and passionate learners who achieves their maximum potential and contributes to our learning community. So like I said, I just like to turn that around a little bit and actually speak to how we fit this mission statement with our adults who work in the district. So goals from this current year, this summer, as a leadership team, we crafted our individual goals towards how we will support the district mission. Now, this is my 8th month. I will begin my 9th month on, I guess, March 1st, which I think is Saturday. So my goals continue to evolve based on the needs of the system, yet my focus remains constant, and here are the goals that I established this year. Review and revise the recruitment and hiring practices for certificated staff, which includes teachers and teaching assistants and administrators. Meeting with all collective bargaining unit leaders to discuss labor matters, prepare for negotiations, and develop MOAs as needed. Review the recruitment and hiring processes for civil service staff. A major part of the work this year we've been doing is the recruitment and hiring of the next Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. We also posted for our Director of Health, PE, and Athletics. Mr. Baker is retiring, leaving us at the end of this calendar year. Also posting for the Assistant Superintendent for Business vacancy, and also in anticipation of the following year, the Assistant Superintendent for PPS. We also are reviewing ways to evaluate all district staff, how that's done, what that looks like. Also develop new ideas prior to negotiating with our collective bargaining unit members. Part of the work this year was reviewing the administrative job descriptions, working with our leadership team and professional learning and furthering their growth. And also just for me to get acclimated to have like a listening and learning tour with staff members and community members, which has been wonderful. Some highlights of work that's been done this year, some achievements, particularly with developing a positive and productive relationship with our collective bargaining units. We've had MOA with the HHEA in the form of these athletic coordinator positions, seasonal positions. We developed an agreed process for posting new teaching positions known as voluntary transfers. It's in the contract, but not specifically. We have to identify the process. MOA regarding clubs and activities. As we know, the teacher's retirement incentive was a major, I think, development this year. Over the next 2 years, we'll be saying goodbye to 15 or 16 of our teachers. And also a 6th assignment, which is forthcoming, what that is, a voluntary 6th assignment. We have an involuntary one in the contract, but this is, I think, when we look at scheduling and providing courses to our high school children, it's going to really give us more opportunities for that. You know that I've been meeting with district stakeholders and developing a profile for for the next assistant superintendent. I believe that was a good experience for me to learn about the needs of the district instructionally. We'll be doing that again very soon with our director of athletics position as well, and opening up feedback to the parents and learning about what their needs are for the athletic program. I've had, I think at this point, over 100 one-to-one meetings with various members of this wonderful learning community since July. That's really been a great benefit to me. And I think most important in the work that we do is shaping how we recruit, hire, retain, evaluate, and support the next generation of teachers here. Initial plans for next year, and this is the work that supports, I think, the budget as well. Expand our reach for recruiting the most highly qualified teaching candidates and leadership candidates. I want to review the clerical positions district-wide, the allocation, the work environment, and the needs of the system. I want to develop a leadership culture of learning here in the district. With all our administrators, we are all learners. It just doesn't stop with students. It doesn't just stop with teachers. It continues with our leadership team. I like to continue to establish norms of professionalism. I think there are a lot of expectations we have to set as adults and model good behavior for our children and also for the community. We'll continue working on that. Mentoring our newest superintendent for curriculum instruction and personnel, which obviously Mr. Trombley will be involved with as well. But as we both held that role in previous districts, I think it's going to be very helpful to help that individual get acclimated to the school system. Major part of next year's work is, of course, recruiting and supporting our new director of PE health and athletics. We're going to continue to foster leadership succession in the PPS office as well. Continue to review and improve recruitment, hiring, and evaluation processes. Continue to develop positive relationships with our collective bargaining units. And again, I think that's been something that we kind of established this year, but we want to continue that relationship forward. And also, lastly, more nebulous, but that's very important to us, enhance our reputation as a learning organization in the region. So to do that work, as Mr. Trombley said, a lot of these items were either in a different budget line or didn't really exist because this position didn't exist. So just briefly, if you look at 14A, 1430-400/10, that's personnel contractual expenditures. So that is an increase because a lot of that came from other lines in the past. So that money is used for recruitment organizations, staff fitness medical evaluations, which we've used a number of times this year. We continue to do that. Conferences and workshops, professional memberships, subscriptions. We're looking at doing the desk audit for our clerical staff this year. And also one thing I didn't mention in there, but I'm thinking that we have to look at services for complete background checks on new hires, which many districts do. And I've used in service in the past, and we have to explore that, I think, for this district as well. 1430-410, the mileage, it's reimbursement for mileage and meals and trips that we may go on professionally, but also in terms of recruitment for staff members in the future. 1430-450-10, personnel, materials, supplies. That is materials, supplies for my office, the HR office, which didn't really exist before. Although, you know, Fran Dodaro has been there and she's wonderful. I just want to say thank you to Fran for all the hard work, and also thank Maura Bistro for all the hard work and helping me get acclimated to this district, but supporting their work in our in our office. That is that line. And then lastly, there is a big bulk of this, which used to be in other pieces of the budget before, and it was BOCES funding services for the personnel world. So Southern Westchester BOCES Regional Certification Service. We currently don't use them. I was surprised we don't use them. They help us with teachers who are looking for expand their certifications or new recruits who are looking for certifications. And sometimes we have questions. I've accessed that group in the past. I wasn't able to do that because we don't have a contract with them. And that's BOCES service I'd like to look into. Northern Westchester BOCES also provides a COSER for posting positions like our superintendent for curriculum, our director of PE health and athletics, putting print advertisements in publications like Education Week, which is the the one publication that stretches across our nation that focuses on teaching and learning. Also, a major piece of this BOCES line comes from compliance, mandatory compliance videos, like mandated reporting videos, in terms of right to know videos and child abuse, and also so many different others which are mandated by New York State. We go through this company called Global Compliance Network, where we provide those tutorials for our teachers and our staff members in the district to actually watch. And that's an annual experience for them. Also, a major piece of technology in application is called Frontline. And Frontline is, again, a BOCES service that we use COSA for. Provides opportunities, obviously, for us to keep track of absences for staff members, for outsiders to apply to our district, ways that we evaluate teachers and staff members is through APPR, through that module, and also tracking our professional growth for our teachers and administrators. So that huge line does come through BOCES services. And I know in other districts, it may come through a different aspect of a budget like technology, but we are moving a lot of that. It has been moved. It was used to be in the curriculum line, right, with Margaret's line, but now it's moved into my line. So again, most of these funds do come from codes that previously existed in other lines in the budget, but now they're under this new role with HR leadership. Any questions? Yeah, thank you so much. It's a privilege working here. I have to say, some people, how's it going in this district? I do like it, right? Wonderful people here. And I keep on using the word opportunity. And there's great opportunity here. So I look forward to our continued relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. And I will piggyback on that. So Dr. Garcia and I share the same belief, is that the impact that we can have as administrators, as every educator, our first and most important job is to provide for the safety and security of our children and of our staff. And then the next thing is to make sure, as administrators and educational leaders, that we provide them with the best educational experience that they can have. And that is one of the most important components of that is recruiting, hiring, and supporting the best and most talented educational staff that we can. So that is an impact that lasts for generations. So I thank Dr. Garcia for joining us this year. I thank him for the work that he's already done and the work that he will do as a valued member of our district. Greg, I'm gonna actually present for Amanda this evening. Amanda had something come up, and just so everybody knows, there is a reason why we run through these presentations multiple times. It's so that everybody on the leadership team has an understanding of the program budget that is being proposed. And a little known fact about me: when I was in the military, one job that I did as an adjunct or as an extracurricular job outside of my normal job is I did provide personal security for the Chief of Air Force Space Command. So when he would visit the base that I was stationed on, I was his personal security. Luckily, nothing ever happened to him. So I will try to fit right back into to presenting Amanda's proposed budget. Amanda Dolce Moscalo is our coordinator for safety and security, and I am pleased to share her developed and proposed budget for the 2025-2026 school year. So Greg, we can go to the next slide. So Amanda, in a similar way to Dr. Garcia, Amanda has crafted a specific program and departmental mission that piggybacks off of our district's mission, and you can see the connection there as well. So you can see the various aspects that safety and security touches within our school district. It's not only physical security, but also cybersecurity, social emotional learning as well, because we also know that a component of safety and security often relates to mental health, and if we're addressing mental health issues of individuals as well. So we can go to the next slide too, Greg. So in a similar vein to our human resources function, you will see a number of Amanda's of our safety and security codes. They are new codes, either because they are newly aligned to a specific safety and security function, where they may have resided somewhere else So it is not an increase or decrease necessarily of 250%. It's more of a reallocation, and you will see a coordinating budget line somewhere else in the budget go down. But also it's because we are delineated this function and have chosen as a value statement of our district that we want to devote funds, and we are proposing to devote funds to safety and security functions. So in the 2024-2025 school year, you can see some of the fantastic work that has been done. When I first came to the district on my third day in district, in October, we had an incident where we lost power due to a Con Ed electrical situation. I was not able to communicate via phone. I was not able to communicate via radio. So I literally had to send a runner to relay information from the building back to me and from me back to the building. So we have already this year added radios to assist in ensuring that we have effective communication in times of emerging situations. Amanda has done a fantastic job along with her partners at at the company that she works for. She's assigned to us by the Alterra Security Company. So not only do we receive Amanda's services as a result of that contract, but we also receive the full suite of services offered by Alteris because we do work with them and partner with them. So we're very happy with that partnership. CRG mapping. CRG is an acronym for a company that provides mapping of all of our buildings that in the event of emergency, we can share with first responders. So they have accurate images of our buildings so that they can plan an effective response to whatever emerging situation is there. They also have increased the door signage around the district to make sure that that coordinates with the subsequent maps that have been created. And last year, Amanda was part-time. We recommended as part of last year's budget to have her full-time or a security coordinator full-time, and Amanda luckily was assigned to us because of the value that she brings as a personnel level and her expertise. But we do have her every day, so we have increased her presence within the district. We've increased her ability to provide training, provide support. She attends all of our administrative team meetings. And so she hears not only from the safety and security side, but she also hears how her safety and security decisions may impact all the way down to the classroom level, because she's hearing our principals report out what we're having. She's hearing our district instructional goals. So she is fully integrated within our administrative team. Greg, if we can go to the next slide, please. Amanda has proposed the following projects for next year. Increasing the district-wide radios to make sure that we have dedicated channels, that we have enough radios that are building emergency response teams, or if you hear the acronym BERT, that all members of that team and other personnel related to safety and security have radios that we can all communicate on at the same time. Increasing our ability to have camera coverage throughout the district. We'd also like to purchase a mobile kiosk for visitor access control. As you know, there has been an adopted policy that I recommended and that the board has adopted, and that we are also revising with Amanda's insight and with feedback from how that policy actually plays out in terms of, a regulation actually plays out. We do want to make sure that anybody coming into our buildings, specifically when there are students present or high levels of staff members are present, that all of our visitors to the buildings are scanned through a kiosk system that checks against criminal databases, other databases that may identify individuals who who should not be allowed into our buildings. We currently only have one of those systems in place at each building in one place, and it's normally the single entry point that is present. We are proposing for next year to purchase a mobile kiosk so that we can deploy that where we have events that have high volumes of visitors that would require us to scan them individually in. We're also looking to number all of our exterior windows. Now, the reason behind that is if there is an emergency response that requires first responders to not have access to the building, we want to know from the exterior what portions or what classrooms are being affected by that emergent situation, and then work backwards from there on how to plan possible ways to address that situation. And Amanda is proposing continued education and training for all of our staff members on safety protocols, on emergency response protocols, and on just general protocols to provide for the safety and security for our students. And Greg, we can go to the next slide. We can also move past this town. I'm sorry, move past, I saw Goose Town there, I apologize. We can move past this slide to the next slide, Greg. So this is Amanda's line items of interest, of note. So you'll see that the first budget code, her 400 code, which is a contractual code, you see a large increase there because we are looking to add new radios, that additional kiosk for the visitor management. So Goose Town is the company that we would buy the radios from. I don't know why they're named Goose Town, but they're just named that way. Day Automation is the vendor we utilize to have extra cameras. And then also you see a major component of our safety and security budget would be that consulting contract we have with Alteris that we do purchase through BOCES. So there is a little bit of state aid reimbursement on that. So that is Amanda's proposed security budget line by line, and we can go to the next slide. And just a message from Amanda for the support that she's received in her first full year here. In her first full-time year with the district. And then Greg, we can go to the next slide showing some of our valued partnerships with local law enforcement and our security monitors and and you can see Amanda there on the center in the right-hand side of the screen with 2 of our SROs. So Greg, you can go to the next slide. At this time, I'd ask that Jill Figuerella come to speak on just a reminder of our proposed capital reserve and discussion on some of the budget projections. And then I'll have Jill turn it back over to me when we talk about possibly revisiting our budget parameters and our budget discussion.
Good evening. Hi. So yeah, on our ballot this year, we're going to have a few propositions, and one of them obviously being the budget itself, but another being our capital reserve. The capital reserve is something that a school district should establish in order to mitigate future expenditures extenuating beyond, budgetary parameters that we've established, so that we can put money towards a future capital project and help reduce the costs of that project. The ballot will read and will cover what I would consider a wide range of specific items, non-specific items, I'm sorry, so that it could be applied to a capital project that is broad amongst the entire school district. And like I said, it helps reduce the cost of future debt that we incur if we gradually put aside monies throughout from year to year to help decrease the cost of that debt service down the road. These types of expenditures for capital projects can greatly, increase with the interest rates at the time. We want to try to keep that down. If we plan for the future, it's just like planning for a future at home. You put savings aside to try to help you reduce the costs of large projects that you may have to do. So this proposition will be on the ballot. We don't ask the public for any money to fund the reserve. It is more or less a place to put remaining funds from a budget that may be, there's remaining funds at the end of the school year. We could also budget money during a budget proposal to put money towards it and know that it's going there, but it could just literally be from remaining funds in any budget year. We're proposing that over 10 years, we would put a maximum of $5 million in there. We all know that capital projects far exceed those amounts of money usually. That's a very small project, $5 million, but it would help to mitigate expenditures in a project at any given time. I just want to say that many other districts go for much higher amounts over that 10-year period. We all know that our fund balance is not we're not in a great place with our Indian Point situation where we're having to take money from our fund balance every year, far greater than we would like to help supplement the budget. And so the proposal of 5 million over 10 years is probably not a goal that you could reach, but it will be something that, we at least have to establish it that way. We have to put an amount on it. That's the way that the law says we have to establish it by putting an amount on it over a certain period of time. If we were to reach that goal for, during that time and we wanted to renew it, we would have to do a new proposition to renew it again. But I think it's a good starting place, and you don't have one right now, and I think it's a good way to go to get yourself started and saving for the future. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
What's the downside, and this is for anyone, of increasing, I mean, it's a goal, right, to get to that amount, so what's the downside of saying 10 million over 10 years, or?
There isn't. It sounds like a big number to people. I don't think realistically speaking that given our situation in Hendrick-Hudson that you would get to that number. I would rather see you pass a proposition than run the risk of not passing a proposition because someone may think you're trying to put money aside, that it may be an unrealistic goal and what is your motivation there? So I don't. Personally, we can make it 20 million, there is no downside to that because you never have to get to that goal. I just think that presenting it to a public in a situation, in your situation, especially in Hendrick-Hudson where, you're losing revenue from not getting the complete
Isn't
amount.
that the reason why we would want to start it now?
No, I think what she's saying is if you overshoot it, you
Right,
run the risk of the community not approving it, then you don't have it.
right, but we're saying that it's our goal to spend that, we're not asking for any specific money, we're just giving the wording of the proposition, right?
Yeah, but sometimes when you put them on the ballot,
This is the
some
optics
people
of
just
it.
may look at the number and say,
Not-
no way.
And not.
Because are they reading the fine print and you don't have a ton of
Okay.
room.
I mean, I
to
think
play
if
with.
you had established a proposition like this in the past, that may be. Right, you're used to it, you overlook it, you say like, yeah, I understand what they're gonna be doing with this. I think going out for this for the first time, it's a good way to get it going. You can certainly increase it at any point in time too, right? So there's no drawback really. I think we should, go at it like a little bit slower and see where we go.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Bill, before you sit down, Greg, could we go to the next couple slides? While Jill's coming back up, I'll just remind us of our budget development calendar. Probably the next major event we do have coming up, we do have our line-by-line budget presentation, which will occur on upcoming Saturday. We have added a draft agenda to this presentation where you can see during the times when we will be discussing various budget codes. The difference between what you're seeing here in these monthly or bi-monthly and evening budget presentations is that we're telling the story during these presentations of how we're building the budget. We're telling what we did with funds that the community provided us with last year. We're providing with what we hope to, if the community supports our proposals, to provide to the community through their educational systems the next year. The line by line will be the specific looking at each budget code for a period of time and answering any questions the board may have, because we're going to provide you with a historical look back of each code. We'll provide you with the meaning of each code. We'll provide you with what was spent what was proposed last year, what is being spent so far this year to the best of our knowledge at the time we discuss it, and then what we're proposing next year. And that in and of itself can generate conversations about the what and why behind each budget code. We'll also have our principals and other administrators on hand to answer any specific questions. And we will also have our principals, particularly our middle school, Mr. Giovanazzi, and our high school, Ms. Scollins, discuss their proposed extracurricular programs, because that is a specific line item in the budget for next year as well. And if we go to the next slide, Greg. Here's a reminder about the budget vote. We can go to the next slide. A reminder about our contingent budget rules, should we go to a contingent budget? And we can go to the next slide. And this is our preliminary projections on our tax cap. So I'll turn it back over to Jill. And once Jill talks about our tax cap, we'll also look at our financial projections. Excuse me, I apologize.
Okay, all right, so yeah, so we've solidified the numbers further since our last conversation about tax cap, and we've gotten some final figures on that, so I guess that's what we're looking at now. And so it's very difficult for me to see the numbers from here completely. Is it in this? Do you know? No, it's in this. Okay. So, what has changed since we last looked at this was, a solid number for our, state aid, our building aid, let's say, that comes from our state aid. So state aid is made up of a whole lot of different numbers, but the building aid affects our tax cap. So that number has now been established, and I was able to use it in the formula so that we could come to a final allowable tax cap figure. I was also able to find out the pilot amounts that we were going to be receiving and confirm those numbers. So that all affects the tax cap bottom line as well. So right now, and what we're gonna be filing with the state on March 1st, which is this Saturday, would be what we would consider our final tax cap at this time. It can be adjusted anytime right up until the budget is adopted. And right now, we're looking at a 4.58% tax cap over the previous year. So, you know, that's where we are with our tax cap, and that's what we are putting into our budget to decide, you know, whether or not we're going to be utilizing that tax cap or going above or below the tax cap. I know right now our goal is to stay under it and to try and, you know, meet our expenditures with that allowable tax cap. So I'm gonna grab my laptop because I really can't see this from here. Excuse me.
Just so everybody knows, this is a screenshot of a very lengthy document that we're trying to post so that it is in the public record. So we apologize for the size of it, but if you do zoom in at home, you can see some of the smaller numbers.
Right, so it's a lot of information, and it's hard to make it any larger than this. And actually, you know, there are projections for further years on there, but right now we're gonna stick to what our projections are for the current year. Again, our state aid has become more final. It's not completely final. It can be changed right up until right before the budget. So we have to take that into consideration. I'm only using or utilizing the numbers that we were given, not knowing what those changes could be or if there are going to be any. So right now, our expenditure total for the coming year's budget is at $95.3 million. Utilizing all of the revenue that we know about. If you look to, if anyone's listening at home and they want to look to, I'm sorry, line 28, that tells us that our revenues, including our cap, our taxable, our allowable tax cap, would only get us to $93.5 million. Okay, that is a shortfall. I'm sorry, $93.8 million. That is a shortfall of about 1.497 or $1.5 million. So the district is right now looking at possible reductions in some of the expenditures that we're proposing. And, we're hoping that between now and our next couple of board meetings, we're able to come to some kind of either reductions in expenditures. We're looking at a total use of fund balance of $3.7 million to get us there. So, not wanting to cut into our fund balance much further, that's what we would like to be able to utilize, so that we're not going, to reduce our fund balance any more than what is necessary. So right now, we haven't closed out this year. We're looking at expenditures in the current year and where we are with those. These numbers can change from now right up until budget adoption. And right now, that's where we are. We're looking at a 2.5% increase from budget to budget. If we go to the full expenditure amount that's on here of 95.3 million, that's up from 93 last year, 93.5. And a tax cap of 54.5 million, which is a 4.58% increase. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
I think the next slide, Jill, even drills down even further into some of our projections.
Yep, so we have fund balance portion of our projection. So right now, we have a $29 million fund balance at the end of the fiscal year 23-24. We just got our final audit results a couple of weeks ago. I'm projecting that at the end of 24-25, with some savings and just looking at where we are with spending for this year so far, we might have a $30 million fund balance, a slight increase, almost $800,000. If we are, in receipt of any additional aid or any reduction in expenditures that we're expecting, that number could be slightly higher. I'm not really sure at this point. We have not stopped spending for this current school year, so that's where we are right now, looking at a possible $30 million fund balance at the end of this year. With my projections for next year, if we use the $3.7 million, we could be looking at a reduction in our fund balance of 28 to 28 million, a reduction of almost $2 million overall.
And just as a reminder, that use of the fund balance is to lessen the impact on the taxpayers' portion of the increase in the tax levy.
Right, over the long run. That's
Over the
correct.
long run. Okay, Greg, we can go to the next slide. Oh, there's a blank one. We can go to the next one. So thank you, Jill.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Jill. I will, I'll take it from here and reach out.
Yeah, wait, I think we have a couple of questions before we continue.
Oh, but I have my question slide is at the end, but yes, we can go ahead. If there's any questions about the projections, we can go ahead and talk about that.
Carry on, I don't want to ruin the order.
Okay. So these are the current budget parameters that we have, as we discuss as a community, with the board. So I do want to, Greg, if we go to the next slide, talk about two of them, because we did receive input from the Board of Education to explore. And again, this is the fine tuning, the fine and gross tuning of every parameter and every variable that it goes into a budget at this time. We are in the budget development phase where we are being transparent in how we are building this budget before we recommend to the Board of Education for an adoption. And the reason why we're being so granular about all these items is because we want the Board of Education to feel comfortable in adopting a budget that they present then to the community, because then we will go to the community and ask the community to provide us feedback on if they are comfortable with what we are proposing to support the children. So we received information from the Board of Education to explore reducing the use of fund balance from approximately 5.2 million that we had been using as part of our projections and part of our budget development at our last board meeting, to utilize approximately 3.75 million of fund balance. That requires us to adjust our proposed expenditures by approximately $1.5 million. So as part of that, it's my recommendation to the Board of Education to help us meet that we do not we do not keep the parameter of expanding budget allocations for technology, communication, infrastructure, and a comprehensive public relations strategy. As part of that, we had in our proposed budget to have a dedicated district staff member public relations specialist. Currently, we utilize a BOCES service where we receive state aid, but we also have some expenditures on that we receive that state aid on to have BOCES provide us with a couple of functions related to public relations, such as update of our social media pages, coverage at some special events, and a coordination with me on communications to the public. So I am recommending that we remove that specific allocation and associated parameter from the budget. Additionally, we were asked to consider incorporating funding for extracurricular clubs at the elementary level that the district provided. I am going to recommend that we remove that from this year's budget consideration, not only to meet that $1.5 million gap because of the expenditures that would be associated with it, but also because this would require extensive negotiations with particularly our teachers union, which we would, if we were to look to put this in place for a budget year, we would need to begin in the previous fall. So if we're looking to, as an example, if we wanted to engage in this for the 2025-2026 school year, we would have to have begun that discussion probably in the fall of 2024. So I would recommend that if the board would want us to explore this, we would have to engage in discussions with our teachers union at the latest by the fall of 2025. We also do have to consider additional reductions to make up that $1.5 million in expenditures that we would need to reduce with that adjustment in the amount of fund balance we're using, given the new tax cap numbers. Greg, if we could go to the next slide. So here's where I'd like to ask the board for their feedback and their input in their discussion. If you had any questions on our content from the presentations, if you feel that, number one, my recommendations for the budget, the change in the budget parameters is acceptable. Are any of the other current budget parameters, are they acceptable? Do you need additional information to make that decision? Would you like to make decisions on those budget parameters? We still have the capital reserve proposition. We have an estimated tax cap of approximately 4.58 with a as we best calculate that we have a 2.5% budget increase, and also within that tax cap, and also that's using the use of $3.7 million in fund balance. And at this time, we still cannot calculate the tax rate that would be applied to each individual family. So that is our presentation for this evening, and we'd like to turn it over to the board for any questions or discussion points that they would like to revisit. I know it's a lot, so I apologize.
No, you're good. Thank you. I just wanted to know, and I just don't understand the timing of it. Because a lot of what you're saying, we don't know what we spent this year yet. Do you, like, at what point do you now have, a year to date, something like a comparison to?
Sure, we have year-to-date amounts. What makes things difficult is that even though you think, the bills aren't paid exactly,
Right,
from month to month to month to month to month. They do lag, and some lag more than others. Now would be the time after, this is a very busy time of the year during budget season and lack of personnel in the business office here and there. We are getting ready to shut down spending, let's say, everybody getting your final purchase orders. We'll put together what I think will be our final fund balance for the end of this school year, a projection, and then we will have a better idea. So as we, do move through the rest of the budget season, those numbers will become a little more evident. They're not going to be, absolutely 100%, right?
So it'll be in like a sort of best guess actual based on what budget we had approved.
Yeah, and I would say not by the next board meeting, because we have another one right next week again. But probably the following one, I would have a better projection towards those things. As we get closer to the end of the year, it gets more clear.
Okay, excellent.
For part of the
and-
line by line budget will be, we'll have a look back of how each code was spent in previous years, and then the best that we know of the actual spent in this year as well too.
Right, we've been giving year to date as people have been giving presentations, but we started those presentations back in January. When we do the line by line on March 15th, those numbers will be updated as well.
And the aid that we were getting this year, that I know was, we didn't get it all, that will all be taken into account in that.
Oh, so far, you mean up to date? Yeah,
Yeah.
because, they've been holding back
Because I
because
know
of our
the-
final
Right.
audit being later than it normally is.
Right. Right, so my other question is really for Mike, and we keep going back to this slide of the parameters that the board set, and I think I may have misunderstood when we had that conversation at the beginning. This is my first time going through the budget season on the board, and I felt like this conversation was a very casual, like, what are your hopes and dreams for the budget? Like, I didn't come prepared to give a list of things that were gonna be carried through and officially like put into the deck. I know at the time there were issues with after school program at elementary, which have been sort of, solved in some way or another. So I for one did not think of these things as like, strict rules to follow. So especially not knowing what we know now. So, I just wanted to go on the record for having said that. And then my other question really is around the fund balance and, the use of it, the purpose of the fund balance, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to, it's like our rainy day fund, right? Is that like kind of?
Basically, I mean, that's one way, there's many uses. I mean, we never know when state aid or things are gonna become economically disturbed, and we need to, you can't just, that it's only 4%, the usable fund balance. The restricted fund balance is a little bit greater than that, but yes, it's a rainy day fund if you wanna look at it that way.
It's also a fund that's gonna cover the cessation fund of the rules that come to.
Right, so that was my
This year
next,
is $8 million, $8.6 million.
is the loss of 8.6 million?
This year, we're getting
We're only
8.6
getting,
million.
which is
In
2 something
2030,
less, right?
in 2030, we get nothing.
Right, so I guess the end of my long rambling thought was just that, isn't it a recommendation to try to use that rainy day fund and kind of spread it out over the next however many
That's what it's
That's what we're
years?
doing.
That's what it's for. Right, so, I feel like, we have to put a lot of thought into not overusing it, early when we have to stretch it out until.
2030. That's when it was supposed to.
Right, and there are some.
2030.
Right, and there are some other contingencies always built into a budget.
No, I know, but then
It's only meant to bridge the gap for Indian Point's loss.
right.
And
There's
it's
a-
helping.
If we look at like the 4 year, there's like 4 years after, the auditor was here in 2023 in that December. And he gave a full overview where he looked at like all of Enrique's projections that he had. And basically it would cover us from 2030 to 2034, which gave us a little bit of room to sort of like, but if you looked at that sheet, there's like 10% increases, there's 9%, it's where it skyrockets,
Right.
because at that point, you're not getting $8.6 million anymore in the cessation, and we have to pull from that money to make up so that we can ensure we're not going to a 20% tax cap.
Right, so but my point is, by the time we reach 2030 and we don't have this rainy day fund anymore, we'll have to be in a place where we're much more, lean or.
Yes.
Because we're not, so that to me feels like we need to be, subtle between now and then.
When you
with
say
with
subtle,
everything.
what do you mean?
Like, not drastic changes year to year, but using a little bit of the fund balance and, relying on whatever the tax cap is and whatever cuts that, Mr. Conley was suggesting.
State aid or with the
Right.
pilots. We
Right.
just don't know. I mean, there's
Right.
like, we've been lucky in the sense for our district that we've gotten more state aid.
Right,
But with everything happening right now, we are flying blind. We have no idea.
we don't know what next
So,
year is even,
Yeah,
right?
we don't know what next year even looks like. And a lot of those projections were like a 2% increase based on that. It's not even where we're at right now. I'd love to see what we had this year from that time
Right,
to
right,
now, because I'm curious to see what that dollar really even looks like.
right, so if we have let's say we have 30 million in the fund balance at the end of this year. You know, how much should we spend per year to make it last till? That's the
Well,
question.
you also-
It's part of the work that.
Yeah, and look at the projection. Some of that's already laid out on what's
Yeah.
anticipated.
Yeah.
Are you on finance?
Yeah.
You are. I'm not, so I don't know what you guys have given you, but there's usually, right, a projection that gives you the answer to all of these
Given
things.
what you guys saw last meeting, that's what we want.
Okay,
That was-
so on
I
that,
mean,
it
I
shows
think-
you what she anticipates using every year
Yeah.
of the fund balance and what
Right.
you anticipate having left based on the year over the year, that's on that document.
Yeah, I think what the realization is, if you're losing 2.2 million every year, so you're losing 2.2 this year, that means next year you have to make up 4.4, and the following year you have to make 6.8. So, right, because right, so this is why the fund balance becomes reduced so quickly. And it will just disappear unless there's a replacement of that revenue somehow from the state or through taxation. There's no, how will you make it up? And I understand, that's what you're trying to say. So you're,
Well, because, Mike had said in the original projections, you guys were using 5 point something.
well, that's how I was getting it to balance,
Right.
was to be able to, so I'm saying, if we're not gonna use that amount.
And I think that goes back to the
Right.
first thing you were talking about, the parameters, that was just that was like our wish list. It wasn't set in stone that we have to
Right.
follow through with those throughout the whole time, because we didn't want to use a lot of money.
Right.
We want to stay within tax cap, we want to keep everything.
Right, like those are
status
the
quo. So
basic.
now we have to make those harder decisions based on the information we
Right.
have. So now we didn't want to use 5.7 for that reason of we want to keep it a little bit longer. So what does that mean? Do we raise our tax? Do we go above the tax cap? Do we start, that's where we have to start making those decisions. So,
Right, I just
our
feel like
parameters
the
will-
public should know like what the decision
So now
making is.
but yeah, so now the
Yeah.
parameters are, we have to think about, do those still hold as much
Right.
meaning as we thought, or do we need to adjust those?
I mean, I personally think the extracurricular club stuff that we have on here, that's sort of been sorted out, so
Yeah.
we could just take
But
that.
that, it's on there for it, it's not under consideration.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the ones he said he was nixing on the thing, so.
I can just speak to that, and Corey, I want to make sure, before I go into a follow-up, I want to make sure, was there a question about the parameters, or was it more going on the
Yeah,
record about?
It was just that get rid of
Okay.
whatever those, I didn't think that. I thought it was just a casual discussion on like. What
Yes,
should we-
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, yes, the
Yeah.
parameters, so we first started talking about the parameters back in December. And we need a starting point, and we need a framework as a district, because eventually, as I said, it's going to be the board's budget that they adopt, and the board has to feel comfortable with what they're adopting as a spending amount. And so
Right.
part of the transparency in building a budget is knowing what are the boundaries of that budget? What are the parameters? So the board thankfully gave the district great detail into how to begin to build a budget, because we talked about trying to remain tax compliant. You talked about things we should consider. And within those items, as we receive information, we will tweak, as we are doing right now. We said this in December. Throughout this process, we'll tweak and ask you to see. That's why we go over the parameters every time, to see if there's still what the board has a sense of supporting, or what they have an understanding that would be the best approach. Again, the board is not adopting a line by line budget. The board is adopting an amount of a set amount of a spending amount. It's up to the district to spend that money in a way that's appropriate, that attempts to, for the best of its ability, to be in line with what they proposed, but there may be other things that come up that don't allow us to spend it specifically for those items that we've presented this year. The transparency of a budget is in this line by line discussion, enhanced by a board who is committed to providing parameters, which I'm very thankful for, because it's not just otherwise we just be building something based upon what only we think about rather than what the board and the district think about as well, because that shows a true collaboration.
Are you saying now that you would have changed the parameters that we gave them?
So
I wouldn't have said certain things if I'd known they were gonna be like written in stone in a.
But they're not
But
written in
they're not.
stone. They're not written in stone.
I know they're not
not
written in
written
stone. PowerPoint or.
No,
yeah.
no. What they can all be modified
understand
still, so it's not written in stone, but they can't build a budget without parameters. So now we
Right.
know these created these parameters gave us these numbers. So then the next step becomes, well, I don't like the way that looks, and what can we adjust from there? So
No,
it's
I
not
get
written in
it.
stone, meaning that it can't be
Kind of
changed.
started it like, this is what we wish we could all get, right? But like
Yeah.
after that, the state aid and we start seeing all that stuff start to get
You
calculated.
can still say that.
Yeah, no, I know, we can say it now, but for next year, for that meeting, I will come prepared with different bullet points to add to this slide.
I mean, don't forget, there are contingencies built in throughout the budget too, because, I have to account for the unknown. There are kids coming into the district we may not know about right now, there are expenditures, that are happening throughout the year that, change that whole landscape by the end of the school year. So, like I said, by March 15th, when we have maybe a closer look at what we've spent year to date, maybe that unchecked balance projection is better, maybe it's worse. I hope it's not worse, but you know what I'm saying, I'm trying to be conservative in all my projections, because it would be it wouldn't be professional of me to give you a greater outlook of something that could be grimmer, right? So, just keep that in mind.
I have a quick question. The state aid projections right now is just similar to what we had last year. I mean, that's not final yet, right? There's still.
Right, they can be final until after the budget adoption, unfortunately.
So
I mean,
if we get lucky and get some more money,
Yeah.
we could just get what we got.
it
last
could be,
year, which is-
there I would say, historically speaking, they've gone up, somewhat. You never know where that's gonna land right now. We're in a strange place right now.
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah. Thank you.
And just to preview the board, I know that we are going into the portion of the budget development where we're going to be prepared to have more detailed discussion on staffing. If you look at our line by line, there will be a staffing discussion there. Just as an example of how we continue to fine tune these parameters or the proposed budget within the parameters. One of the parameters is to explore contingent positions. We had X number of contingent positions in there. One thing that we are going to regroup on as a cabinet is to look at the number of contingent positions, and if that's not an area where we can still keep some of those contingent positions in the budget, but reduce some of them to try to get within that $1.5 million budget, so that we can still be responsive if there's a fluctuation in enrollment or student needs, but not as robust as it was when we first built the budget, when we didn't know all of the variables and how they're coming to fruition. So that's just looking ahead to the next possible meeting. So Greg, we can go to the next slide, which should be the end. Are there any final questions or comments from the board for on the presentations or on our budget development process? Okay. Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. I'll thank Amanda, who I know is watching virtually, for her the development of her presentation. And thank you to the board for your continued input in helping us develop a budget that you feel comfortable moving forward.
Thank you. We're gonna move into your report, superintendent's update.
Excellent. I'll just take 1 second to transition. I apologize. I just closed out of the wrong document. So I did discuss earlier that we will have our line-by-line budget review, which will also be live streamed and recorded. It will take place on March 15th at the Hendrick Hudson High School Library. We will begin at 8 a.m. with an executive session, and then we will begin our line-by-line at 9 a.m., expecting to wrap everything up by 3 p.m. We will begin with the instructional program in the morning, and we'll move to the operations and administrative portion in the afternoon. We will have 2 opportunities for public comment. We will provide we do have a draft agenda in the presentation update on the budget development calendar for this board meeting that's in board docs. I will also provide that in my weekly update to come. So be on the lookout for that if you'd like to come and comment on our line by line or provide your feedback as well. Recently, our partners at the Town of Cortland, as I mentioned before, shared with me that as a result of a joint letter signed by many stakeholder groups, including our Board of Education, our HHEA, our DAA, our HHESA, our PTAs, our CSEAs, and our PTA Advocacy Committee, and many other stakeholders. That was read at the December Decommissioning Oversight Board meeting. As a result of that, Congressman Mike Lawler has said he would like to discuss opportunities to assist our district. We are very fortunate that Dr. Becker's office from the Town of Cortland has coordinated a meeting between Congressman Lawler's office and our group for this coming Monday. And I greatly appreciate the partnership and support we receive from Dr. Becker and his staff, and thankful for the relationship that Congressman Lawler has decided to meet with us. This past weekend, we learned that some of the work being done on our track to comply with or to achieve our energy proficiency update, where we look to provide more efficient lighting and more proficient heating and air conditioning or cooling. As part of that work, we were replacing lights on the track, and we had a pre-construction meeting for all of these items and associated with the energy performance contract. And as part of that, we always say, this is the type of material we have on the track. Please be sure that your vehicles that are performing the work are not going to damage our track. There's assurances made at that meeting. While the vehicles that were performing the original maintenance were compliant with our parameter that they do not damage the track, one of those vehicles experienced malfunction, and the support vehicle that was brought on to repair that piece of equipment did cause some damage to our track. Now, of course, with a damaged track, we do not want our students or our community on that track, and we do know that we are going into track season. We have a very successful track team and a tradition of that. So I do want to assure that everybody knows that our district was made aware over this weekend. As soon as the damage was made, Mr. Merlini and Mr. Becker are already in the works of ensuring that we have a plan to repair the items that were the parts of the track that were damaged. Mr. Becker did relay to me today that he had a meeting with both our track vendor and the vendor who was performing the maintenance that damaged the track. Or the repairs, the maintenance and the associated repairs to the equipment that damaged the track, and that we do feel a plan is in place where we should not, if everything works as scheduled, should not see an impact on our home track meets. But we will keep everybody updated because as we always know, when it comes to repair or construction, there could be delays. What we're looking for is a series of warm days when the track can be repaired. And if we get those warm days and everything goes as planned, we should not see an impact on the actual track meets. We may have to make some adjustments for the practices, but the actual track meets, if everything goes as planned, we do think we can have our track available to be repaired and functional for those track meets. With February coming to a close this week, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the end of African American History Month. And since 1976, every U.S. president has officially designated the month of February as African American History Month. This is an opportunity for schools and for, frankly, all of our citizens to recognize and celebrate profound contributions of African American individuals through our nation's history. And As you know, I'm a recovering social studies teacher, and I believe that by identifying African American history in our own study of American history, schools inspire our students to strive for equality for all citizens, and celebrating American History Month encourages a deeper understanding of our collective past, and it also fosters a future where all cultures are respected and recognized for their impact on the American society. In 2026, Hendrick Hudson High School will celebrate its 100th anniversary, a milestone that deserves a truly memorable celebration. And to make this event a success, we are forming a Centennial Celebration Task Force, and we invite all members of our community to be a part of that planning process. Our first meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Hendrick Hudson High School. The specific room will be determined as the date approaches. We are looking for dedicated community members, including alumni, parents, staff, and students who are interested in helping to shape this once-in-a-lifetime event. Whether you have experience with event planning, historical research, fundraising, or simply a passion for celebrating our school's legacy, we welcome your involvement. If you would like to join this task force, please feel free to email me at michael.trombley@hunheadschools.org or call the office at 914-257-5512, extension 5110 to sign up. In advance, I'd like to thank everybody for their support of this event, and I look forward to working with the task force to honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the future of Hendrick Hudson High School. And finally, again, another reminder, because I know that when we do make some changes to our calendar, parents want ample time to make those changes and frequent reminders to be sure that they have all the information they need. I did cancel school for students on December 16th, 2024, which was originally a half day for students, and it was scheduled to be a professional staff day for professional learning for staff. This decision was made due to the timing of the weather event. If we had implemented a 2-hour delay, students would have attended school for a very short period of time before being dismissed again. However, that day remained a work day for our staff. So to prevent any potential discrepancy between required student attendance days and staff contractual work days, I have made a retroactive adjustment to the calendar. Specifically, December 16th will now be designated as the final superintendent's conference day of the year, which was originally scheduled for March 17th. And we will now make March 17th an early release day for students while remaining a full contractual day for staff. At this time, there are no questions regarding follow-up from our last board meeting. I will now ask Ms. Vinitha Joy, our Executive Director of Technology and Innovation, to provide her report to the Board of Education.
Good evening, everybody. So I have 2 updates. We had talked about one of our health system offsetting and launching a new one. ServiceNow, our new health system, is launched over the holidays, and tickets are coming in. So it's working like it should be. We've been working with the business department on Envision moving to the Lyric. We started this work back in December 6th. We're right now, next week on Tuesday, we should be going live with the Envision to the Lyric. The other report that I have is Winter iReady parent reports and kindergarten through 5th grade elementary report cards are on the portal. The parents are watching. Please check your students' report cards online. I do run a report to see how many parents are logging in, so we can monitor that and see parents are looking at them. We have some parents who haven't activated their accounts, so we will be sending out an email to them, letting them know this is your activation code. And if they need any help, how they can reach out to technology department. We had an issue with the Furnace Woods lockdown drill today. We had an update to our system, Informacast system, which is what usually when the lockdown is triggered, that's the notification system to email alerts, text, classroom phones, all of that. We did a drill at Furnace Woods today. The calls came to FGL. When we did the upgrade over the winter break, there was something that was triggering the system where the groups that were set up, where the old groups were still in the system. Somehow it defaulted back to the old group. So I did talk to Amanda today. We were on the call with the vendor tomorrow morning. Amanda is going to test that, so we can be sure the lockdown is working like it's supposed to. We've been talking about the district moving from EduTech services to managed IT through the Lyric services. We started those assessments. So I do get a weekly email, if not daily, on all the assessments that they're doing in our network. What's behind, which server hasn't been restarted, how many versions behind we're on certain things. So it's hard to see those, but at the same time, I'm glad that we are actually proactively looking at that rather than reactively. So we are currently on our way to hopefully being launching on managed IT through the Lyric August 15th. Events management system. So we had selected a events management system called Master Library. This was something that PTA has been asking us to do when they put in a facilities request. It's a triplicate paper form that goes through multiple people to get approval, then finally it comes to the board for approval, and then it goes to the requester back saying it is approved. So we did started our kickoff meeting with the Master Library today. Facilities and myself, we started looking at how to set up the system, who needs to be involved, who needs to be trained. So hopefully this will be launched. Our goal is to do it July 1st. What else? Technology Leadership Committee meeting. We did have a Technology Leadership Committee meeting and Corey was there. There were several discussions, very hot topics. We will definitely bring that up with the administration and cabinet. A lot of questions around printers and Chromebooks, especially at the middle school. I would say middle school students, how quickly they break their devices multiple times, and how do we get them back into their hands. The insurance was a question, so it is something that we will talk about with the administration, see what's the best way to move forward with that. I did get to attend, Mr. Solner actually invited me to a PLCW engineering class today, where we had Matt Klimek from one of our graduates from 2020. He's at RIT, 50-year mechanical engineering student. He had a group of students who were presenting to our engineering students on a club that they have, the theme park enthusiasts. It was great to see our students coming back and providing back to our students and see how they're using the coursework that they used at the high school back into RIT in their college. They also talked to the students about the engineering design and, you know, the thrill design, they call it, for the competitions, and also going through what are, you know, that our kids were asking which courses were really helpful for you in college, when, you know, which ones should we take, which ones we should not stress out about. So it was really good, as a mom of an 11th grader too, going into computer engineering. That was a really good moment for me too, but it was nice to see our students very engaged in asking those questions. So it's usually like my highlight is when I get to see those kind of things in action. That's my report for today. If you have any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vineetha. I'll now ask Dr. Margaret Reller to provide her update on curriculum instruction and professional learning.
Good evening, everyone. So beneath the stole my thunder with report cards and I ready winter reports. I did send a parent square on Monday just to remind everybody, because I know the vacation may have taken their minds off of that, to please check the portal. And we will continue our conversations about how to help parents access the portal as we go forward. I also want to have a little PSA, if you're out there listening and you have a kindergarten or a UPK student, please register your students for the fall programs. It helps us to see the registration coming in, it helps us to get ready, and it also helps you as a parent not to miss some of the activities that start to occur as we get to orientation and screening dates and then visitation. So please do sign up. AIS is getting underway with the new benchmarking information. So with the coaches, we have been visiting with all 3 schools this week and before the break to make sure that everyone is aligned about which children are exiting the program, which is always a good thing to celebrate, which children are coming into the program, and who will be providing the services. So you may be getting a letter to let you know that your child has met with success and no longer needs the support. You may be getting a letter to say that we are welcoming your child into the support so that they can be successful in the second half of the school year. Lastly, what is on our agenda tonight, I believe, is for the board to approve the 25-26 school calendar. So hopefully that will go smoothly, and tomorrow I will be able to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reller. And thank you, Dr. Reller, for reminding me of already we have to start planning for next year. We do have on each of our budget development presentations, when we talk about our budget development calendar, we do have a reminder about the deadline to submit for non-public transportation requests. So just as a reminder, that deadline to submit those requests is April 1st. And those forms are available on our transportation website, or if you have access to the presentation, there is a hyperlink within the presentation that we had tonight and in previous evenings. So I'll now ask Mr. Chris Moreno to provide his update on pupil personnel services.
Thank you. Good evening. So today our Sailor students at the high school had the opportunity to take part in the Unified Leadership Summit. This is a get-together that schools that participate in unified sports come together, and our students actually had an opportunity to present at that summit and discuss how they have created and fostered unified opportunities here at Hendrick Hudson. So it was very exciting for many of our students and our staff. With that being said, our unified bowling season starts March 7th, so I'm very excited about that as well. Now, starting next week, parents should keep an eye out in their students' backpacks, and as well as emails. Our indicator 8 letters are going to start going out to parents. This is a really important opportunity for parents to share feedback on how the special education programs and services and supports in their district are providing for their students, and we'll gain valuable feedback from that. In addition, we have 2 special education teachers who are currently performing their administrative internships with the district. They'll be presenting at the March 7th meeting in regards to graduation and diploma and credential options. And so that's a very valuable presentation for students and parents. So I hope to see a lot of people there for that. And finally, March is going to be our annual review season for grades 3, 4, 8, and 10, as well as select specialized programs at elementary level. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. At this time, I'm sorry, that concludes the superintendent and cabinet update, and I'll turn it back over to President Mills.
And it brings us to ThoughtExchange conversation. There's a presentation that is online. So this is basically a summary of ThoughtExchange. We had the prompt, what are the most effective ways the Hendrick Hudson Central School District Board of Education can communicate with you? On the second slide, you'll see we had 219 participants, 135 thoughts, 3,848 readings of those thoughts. There's the 207 responses, the breakdown was 36 were staff members, 2 were students, 153 were community and family members with students in the district, and 30 of them were community and family members with no students in the district. And this breaks down, the next slide breaks down the satisfaction or the dissatisfaction of our communication. So overall, agree and strongly agree, 39 and 16%. Then the next slide, I find that the current method of communication from the Board of Education through Parent Square is effective. I mean, it looks like we have most people agreeing with that overall. Next slide talks about what ThoughtExchange does is it takes out keywords and then it gives you the most common keywords that came up. So when I went through this, for example, where it says thoughts and then it says key thoughts, this is the main, so the key thoughts are important. These are the things that ranked up the highest and had the most common themes about our communication. So one of them is text for urgent communication, brief bulleted emails for important information reminders, minimize lengthy emails. Having Parent Square and Campus Parent requires 2 portal passwords links to keep track of. I believe there should only be 1. It's not about how you communicate, it's about what you communicate. Those are the 3 ones, the rank 1, 2, and 3. It's probably a good time for us to just have a brief conversation about that. So I think it's good we learned Parent Square was a good tool, right? It was a good introduction to people compared to what we were using before. That seemed to be good. A lot of the communication was text and emails. People want text and emails, but it was clear that they want text to be quick. You know, a lot of this communication isn't necessarily from the Board of Education, right? A lot of it is from the district. So I think the district learned a lot from this, more than maybe we did. Yeah. But I want to take a moment and just talk about, because I don't think people really understand why we have the 2 portals. Mike may be able to chime in here or Vinitha, but when we were developing our strategic plan and the pillar that I was mostly on, pillar 3, which was clear communication, clear and targeted communication. That's where we came up with, we really wanted everything to be translated for people in their native, in their preferred language, was one of the parameters. The Infinite Campus cannot do that, so.
These are 2 different tools.
Yes.
One is there for, the Infinite Campus is more of a way for you to keep track of student work. That's where an attendance, like that's where information goes in about your child. But it's not a communication tool in terms of you email through there for information. That's for Parent Square. So they are 2 separate portals because they have 2 separate. I don't believe, and maybe there is, I don't know if there is something that has both.
It's integrated.
Both pieces that is also user friendly, because I know Infinite Campus syncs with a lot of the programs that are already approved through the district.
So yes, Infinite Campus is definitely our learning management system reporting for parents. It did have a newsletter type of thing, but it didn't, like Erica said, it didn't translate. It wasn't very user friendly. Teachers still use that for missing grades and things like that. If they're sending out information, they still use Infinite Campus messaging system because it's automated through their gradebook system. But for our communication platform for the district, when we had the stakeholder meetings and we looked at a couple of different systems, the Parent Square was the best one because you can have pretty much everything in one place. Infinite Campus also, you couldn't put community in there, for example, because you only had parents in there. So we were using Constant Contact for you know, reaching out to our community members who are not parents, right? So Parent Square was that system. Now, I think one of the questions is about single sign-on. Those systems are, like, we have single sign-on for staff and students in Parent Square and also in Infinite Campus. Unfortunately, for parents, we don't control their accounts, so we can't really make the username and password something the same in two systems. They don't, Parent Square doesn't even allow us to do it because you do it through your phone number, right? So you can set up your email address and then say, sign in with Google if you wanted to do that. But we don't have a way to say like, okay, your username, password in Infinite Campus is the same as Parent Square, because we don't control that piece of it. Our staff and students, on the other hand, we do, and we do SSO, which is single sign-on for both systems.
So this was one of the ones that was very, you know, a want of the community, but something that the technology doesn't really exist right now, so. You know, I think we're lucky to have what we have. Parent Square, I think, has been a valuable asset. But there's nothing we can really do at this moment to correct that, just so the community understands.
Can I just make one suggestion? Because I agree that it's, I mean, for me as a parent, I was thrilled when I got it, and I was super annoyed at the same time, because I was like, I don't know, I'm getting a text, I'm getting pinged on, where am I signed in? I'm not signed in. And then once I learned how to do it right, and, you know, even like 2 days ago, I turned off one of the notifications because I was getting like the emails at the same time as the text, and you don't really need both. If you're gonna get the text, then, and I kept getting annoyed at myself for not having gone in earlier and checked that. So I think there's a learning curve with anything technology based like this, and so maybe there's a way to just provide more you know, help to parents. You know, I know that you have instructions, and, you know, just maybe there's a clearer way to get people on the program, how to turn the notification. I mean, you know, all the ins and outs of it so well. You know, part of orientations, I don't know what the answer is, but you could say,
But yeah, you've done presentations on it.
yeah, I know you guys done, but I think people still, for every sporting event I go to, someone's like, I don't know how to use it, I don't know how to use it, I don't know how to use it, and like, when you sit with somebody and tell them how to use it, it changes everything.
But I feel like beneath the.
So I know for the STEAM Innovation Day, we did offer a class on, you know, district tools and communications and stuff, but, you know, we don't get everybody to come to that. I did attend like the BD had a ENL night. I did attend that, helping them set up their.
Just highlighting that that's available at those things a little bit more, just so people can, that may bring more people out to begin with, but
Yeah.
even just to go over to you, like have a sign on you that says, I can help the Parent Square.
And also like, once you download it on your app, then the login is not an issue, right? Because once you have it on your app, it opens up all the time,
Right.
so.
I have a comment too, so I have 4 kids, so I get lots of notifications on Parent Square, but it's okay, because I feel like if I miss one, I can see the email, and then I'm kind of like used to going back and forth between the app and the portal. Like Margaret sends out on the Parent Square, will list exactly where to go in the portal, exactly where to check for the iReady, for the report cards. So I thought that was easy. If the one email, like she sent, came out with the exact instructions, and then you could even, I think you sent it where we could click and get right to the portal. I think, wasn't it in the email that you sent, you could actually just click right there and it brought you to the portal. And I also was talking to another parent the other day. I think she was emailing you from like the parking lot we were standing in. And she's like, I forgot my login for parent portal. But I was trying to tell her too, like, I know on my desktop and laptop, you can just save it, so I don't know mine either, but it just is there.
Yeah.
Like it saves, you know?
Until it's not. and
Yeah.
then you have to call. when you-
Right, but you can save it
Yeah.
on your computer, so every time you log in, it is there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, I think it just takes getting used to switching back and forth, but I think it's a pretty good system, like you don't, parent portal, you don't have to go into all the time. It's like when the grades come up or beginning of school.
Yeah, and also
Almost like a
parents where you don't,
notification.
on parents where you don't have to log in because you just get push notification to your email at parent portal.
Every time, like you can get notifications on the campus.
For every.
Yeah, I did
That
it
the
for
teacher.
every
inputs
single
that,
thing,
yeah,
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I signed up for that for middle school.
Yeah.
But that's good, yeah.
I know.
I thought it was interesting, because we've been looking at all the different modalities for us for communication, and almost all of it came back to, like, people want something quick, so they just want to text, so like, I know we wanna do all these great things, almost everything when we were going through this, we sat with I forget her name, the person who organized all of this in the company.
Rupert.
She sat.
Rupert.
Yes, thank you. A lot of it came back to people don't necessarily want to go out. People don't necessarily want emails, people don't want all of this stuff, they literally want a quick text that's going through. But we're kind of doing that, maybe not as a board, but as a district through the parent, because it does come through as the text to lead you to there.
But not a dedicated text with a specific message only in text, you know, like.
It would be lengthy.
What's going into the parent square.
Right. I'm just
Like, I
saying,
get at
like,
least, like,
nobody
for their
never sent a
title.
text out from the board, you know, like.
If we sent a text, and I don't know how this works, if we
Right.
send a text. We want everyone in the whole community that we have cell phone numbers for to receive a text from us. Saying, we're having a board meeting on whatever night.
Here's a link to the agenda.
Is that actually legal? I don't know.
Who are you asking?
In general, I'm not sure that the school district can technically text message everyone unless they've opted into getting that text message.
Where would you get the information from? You would get it from the district.
Yeah,
You mean the cell phone numbers?
yeah.
Yeah. Right, so you do have to have an opt-in text list that, which is, I mean, don't we all fill those out at the beginning, like, if you want your.
I think in that particular case, it would probably be the district notifying the community through similar signups that they opt into in our parent square groups, that the Board of Education is holding a meeting.
Like posting our agenda, you know, we send that out through Parent Square to everybody. If they're opt into text messages, they're given permission to do that,
Okay,
right? That's what.
so maybe that's how, maybe we, as part of this, try that with one of our upcoming meetings or something, and
Like the line by line budget meeting.
yeah, we can send that a text message out for that. And let's just see, I mean,
They get both, that's the only thing, would they get both?
They would get the email, I mean, that would be like alerts,
yeah,
right, rather than a post. It would be like an email, a text message. We don't have to send out a voice call, but it would be both email and
both.
text.
okay. Okay,
I mean, it would get people's, it would break through a little bit.
we can, well, the reason we did this was to try something new,
Yeah.
so I think that's, it's clear, if you go, when you go to the next slide, you're gonna see people want email or text, email and text. That's,
Yeah, there was a lot of like contradictory stuff in here as well, because
Yeah.
it's like, you have some people that want to email, like you see this person here, when I have time to read it on a computer screen, but how many
Right.
people sit down at a computer screen and read emails? But then everyone has for texting, so there was different, you could tell like the different groups of people, like people who are more,
Traditional, and
traditional, like
how they
the-
look at their media, yeah.
yeah, so it's gonna be a balance of trying to figure out how to meet all of the needs without being overbearing though. So that's the thing, you don't wanna send a text and email and be standing outside with the neon sign,
Right.
because then it's too much. So we have to figure out what that balance is.
Benita, is there a way to just send a text, not a text and an email? For an alert?
I have to take a look. I think it's email and text. We don't have to do a voice call. but I have to take a look at that, if you can just do a text message. I know you can do email only.
Thank you for putting
The
together. this
text is the,
presentation.
sorry.
I just wanted to add, and I don't want it to sound negative, but the board's goal is to be transparent, yet only one comment was included on the topics the community wanted to hear about. Parents made it clear they wanted more updates on academic improvement, progress tracking, and instructional strategies. Why wasn't the full feedback presented? Because I'm looking at your presentation and now I'm on Parent Square and I'm looking at all.
When ThoughtExchange creates this, ThoughtExchange propagates the things that come to the highest level.
Okay, so things that come to the highest level on ThoughtExchange is really meant to be an interactive. So thoughts with fewer ratings but higher average scores rank higher than thoughts with more ratings but lower average scores. That's the ThoughtExchange.
But the question that we asked wasn't
But
what they wanted communicated.
But then you should have done a Google form. Do you want email, text? How much did we spend on ThoughtExchange?
So this is not the only thing we were doing, this was just our initial. We wanna know how to communicate, we were doing this tool, this is just the initial. I believe Mike has another ThoughtExchange that's coming up now that we close this one out. And then we can pose like those other.
But you got, a ThoughtExchange is meant to be a prompt to get meaningful other dialogue started. A Google survey would have given you, do you want email, text, newsletter, postcards? So we've got data now. We have data that the community participated in. So to make this more transparent, and that is a goal, you should have presented all of the data here, not just cherry picked what data goes in.
The system cherry picks, not
Yeah, but
the system brings to the, this is created.
This was created from the company.
By the company sends it to us. It's how the computer system.
if you go into ThoughtExchange, it gives you all the thoughts in their rating. So you would have to know how to go in there, and most people are just gonna go in and rate it and be done with it. I think that we owe the community. So we're talking about how do you get into the parent portal, how do you get into the Big Campus, to take these thoughts and add them to this presentation and present it to the community.
But that's a separate, the topic for this particular one wasn't that, we can address those, but not for the presentation, because it's not answering the question.
But once again, if you just wanted to know if they wanted email, text, newsletter,
We
or
can do
postcards.
that. The top three things are text for urgent communication, brief bulleted emails for important information reminders. Having Parent Square and Campus Parent requires 2 portals, passwords, links. It's not how you communicate, it's about what you communicate. Those were the three top things, the key thoughts of this ThoughtExchange.
Okay, so now go down to the next slide. All of the other thoughts that you included that are not top rated, and there are other thoughts that are highly rated that go number 4, 5, and 6. You didn't include in this, but you put this other stuff.
The system did not pull those.
Okay, but you only have certain amount of thoughts. I'm saying if we're being as transparent as possible, and I'm looking at this.
But that's also public. So, okay, so let's just, to satisfy this, what we're gonna do is we are going to download that somehow. Even though I don't know if it's meant to do that, we're gonna figure out how to download that, and we'll just put up another presentation with all the.
But I also think we should be using what they want information about.
But we're
So-
gonna guess that would be another prompt, that could be another prompt that we have. That
So
wasn't using this prompt.
information just because people were using it to like, I think, voice themselves.
Mike wants something.
What? Mike's trying to answer thought.
They're encouraged to rank other thoughts. And so if you have a thought that has 29 rankings and all those rankings are low, what that shows is that that is a thought that people did not agree with. Or if you have a thought that has 29 rankings and people rank them as high, that shows that a thought is what people agreed with. And at the same time, I believe if you do provide your thought, you can go and see the other thoughts that have been provided. What we can do is we can definitely, I can follow up if the board would like me to, in one of my next emails out to the public. I can provide the full rankings of all the thoughts that were captured. I will tell you this, that when I looked at this, I looked at every single thought that was rated, and it is taken as information that we can use to help shape, communicate. I would wonder though if the board would be responsible for communicating out information about assessment, instruction, the progress of the district. That's just, I would feel comfortable, more comfortable perhaps with the district sending that out. Because I would want any questions that came out from that to come back to the district.
To the public about this.
Yeah, but that's not, but we're getting, the presentations are for us, we're not creating them.
Okay, my last thing about your presentation is I'm looking at slide, and listen, I do appreciate you putting this together because I didn't put it together and I know you took time to do this. I'm looking at the 207 responses. You have 14% family member with no student. So that's 30 people who responded.
Yep.
Are we attributing those 30 people to the postcard that we mailed out?
We could, we don't know.
Do we know from the postcard, specifically using the postcard, did it have a different link to tell us that it was accessed from the postcard?
No, and I mean, I even had questions that when we reopened it, I had the question of like, can we see, did that have any meaningful part? I don't think that we
didn't do a different link.
No, because it was all going, because then it wouldn't be able to aggregate.
Well, there is a way
one.
There is a way to do it.
No, then that would have to be from us, not from them.
So if we do.
But if we did two separate links, it would be two separate posts. Because I was even wondering, was it meaningful for us to reopen it?
Well, my
No,
point
did we
is,
get anybody after we?
how much did we send to mail out the postcard? Was it $1,000, $2,000? I mean, was it cheaper? Mike, do you know how much the postcards?
It's about $2,500.
It was $2,500 to send out the postcard. So
Okay.
you had 30 people. You spent $2,500 for 30 people to fill it out. So that's 80.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can't assume that, you can't, you also can't assume that the people in the community didn't respond because of the book.
Oh, okay. I think that if we're spending money on postcards and we're talking about sending out newsletters, my point is, we should know based on, because all marketers do that. When they have a postcard and you click on the link, they know how many people and if it was cost effective.
I also think, to your point, because I don't know how much mail we want to get, because let's say, I know the people who pick up their stuff in the mailbox, see that postcard and it goes right into the garbage.
And this was
that
literally the whole reason we did the ThoughtExchange.
So that was
We were
part of
talking
this,
about
because
it
I don't
wasting
even know
money.
if it's worth it to put things in the mail anymore, because while you might get, let's just say those 30 people got it. Those 30 people might have used it. I am one of those that most of the time you put one of those mailer things in my mailbox, it's going right into the recycling bin on my way down.
I mean, I know we have to do it for budget, for
Without
information.
reading it, you would just throw something out.
Yes, I do
Without
too.
reading something from the school? Piece of paper?
I take a glance at it and I'm like, oh, they want, if it's, people who responded to this wanted to respond to this. If they have nothing to say, or they're not coming to meetings, they have no issues with anything, then yeah, that was just another piece of recycling to put in their box. Would I necessarily do it for this? Maybe I wouldn't, but do you know how many mailers I get when I see it? People spend money on it, but it doesn't necessarily pertain to me at that moment. It goes.
Well, that was my point with mailings. I think that we need to really think about that.
And we're spending money on it.
When we're spending money on sending out mailings, and that's all, because I am one of those people too. I will throw it in the garbage, because you're getting so much stuff. Now, the budget booklet that's sent out, I
That's why
definitely, look through it.
At the budget postcard, that's why I was like, let's make sure this is really getting the best bang for its buck.
You know, well, I think the budget newsletter that the district sends out,
Is worth it. Yeah.
it's informational
Comprehensive.
and people read it.
Yeah, I don't really, if you're looking throughout the responses here, not a lot of physical mail is on here. I'm actually trying to even see now if I see anything that says physical mail.
But people may not even have known that that's what we meant, like, because we didn't, like, I agree with you, I thought we should have prompted them, like, these 5 things, which do you prefer? And I think somebody had said, we don't wanna put ideas in their minds, we want people to like just give us their unique thought, but like, I feel like people want multiple choice. Like,
I know, but if you give multiple choice, then you're gonna pick one of those.
It's a Google survey then. But I also thought, when I looked through the responses, seriously, I'm like, okay, we look at how many people don't come to meetings. We look at how many people, you know, like, how can we get more people involved? And we've been up here talking about that. So when I looked through this thought exchange, I was like, well, the way to get more people involved is to give them information they want to hear about. That's my only 2 cents in it.
So the next one was, I don't know where we were on email,
It's just a lot of
text messages. People were
that we're
satisfied
doing for
with
the
that.
forums or town halls.
And then the communication, the word communication came up, and then these were the ones that had the highest ranking stars. By most people, the highest ranked. Texts came up again. Again, it's not how you communicate, about what you communicate. Weekly email is good, text alerts for emergencies suffice. Get more people signed up and they will be better informed. I think we'll be working on that. Communication is good. If people aren't aware, it's most likely because they're not making an effort to know. Focus on what is communicated rather than how. I have no suggestions. The method of communication is fine. And then Parent Square came up multiple times. People mentioned it.
Communication content, it's gone.
Hmm?
The rest of that line.
So is that someone who wrote that, or
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's
And other people ranked it, and the stars next to them relate to their rankings.
So what
The agreement or disagree with that statement.
that's the piece I think that came up.
Really, why is half of it bold and half of it not bold?
Yeah, like is that what
The unbold part is like their second thought, or like, do you wanna add anything? And some of them, when you read them, are not connected at all.
So the bold is like the
bold is
overview
main
cover
thought.
stuff, like summarizing it.
Yeah, but once again, these are not the highest rated thoughts underneath it, only 1, 2, and 3 are. That's why these other ones,
Those, but if you look at the top corner, you see where it says thought, there's a
yeah,
like
but
overall
that's,
theme, communication.
yeah, but
Parent
I have the thought exchange up here, I have your number, highest ranking thoughts and average, and it's ranked based on the averages. You were missing number 5, that's not on there, that's ranked number 5.
No, but
You were
the first one, the key thoughts, those were 1,
The
2,
first 2 and 3, yes.
slide 6 is 1, 2, and 3. Then when you go to the other ones, if you look in that top corner, then it changes from just key thoughts to a very specific piece, so it's email, then
Yeah,
text
that's
messages,
putting
communication.
in, so I just want the public to know that only those top 3 are your 1, 2, 3 top rated thoughts. Underneath it is just picked out thoughts from the thought exchange.
You pick that.
No, I'm not saying you picked them, you just told me you did it.
Honest, Stephanie, the whole conversation here is that you're insinuating that Amelia and I put this nefarious, non-transparent
You just said,
document together when it's.
no, you just said you didn't do it.
It's not, you said it again. Okay. You said it again.
Yeah,
Amelia and I did not create this to be not transparent or to eliminate anything. So the solution is that Mike said, we will share the rest of the thoughts with the community, and that's it.
Okay. But I just didn't want the community to think that the ones underneath are top rated.
What? There's a thought exchange. Mr. Trombley? We've lost it.
Nope, didn't lose me. I just wanna excuse the cabinet to let them get home so they can be ready and fresh for tomorrow's work day.
I'm also wondering if it, because it filters out, like this will filter out certain things, like if things are inappropriate or. No, I'm saying in general, ThoughtExchange does that. A lot of. I'm just wondering what comments you're talking about, and is it related to the topic of the question?
I think our best course of action is to just see how we can group all of this together, the information and stuff it's asking for, and then try to just.
We'll just download it.
Yeah.
We have to just download it and we'll provide it.
That's the best.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm not trying to be critical of you, and you just told me that you didn't make it, I don't, and I started off by saying, I appreciate that it was put together. And then you said that you didn't put it together, but I was actually disappointed that it all wasn't there. And frankly, I would expect it, if I'm gonna do a survey and a thought exchange and you want me to write, I would expect that I'm going to see everything.
That would have taken that would have been 40
Now-
pages.
Yeah,
So
no,
let's
it's,
let's just find a way where we can group
Okay.
all this information. Just get it as close as possible to what is requested.
Or like you said, if there's a way to send the whole thing out, if
Yeah, like
anybody
maybe
wants to
like
send
People
somebody.
can log into thought exchange
Right.
and see all the thoughts.
Or just remind them they can go on to see the full thing, but the overview message was people want text and email.
Right.
That's all we wanted to know, right?
And
Should we text that tonight?
We'll text that.
no, the overall message is they want text and email, and they want certain things communicated. They want test scores, they want achievement, progress reports.
But that's
Like, not minimize that.
That's not coming from us anyway, so even if they want that, that's not, this is from the board, that's the district. We're not texting out or emailing
I
out.
didn't say that you're texting out or emailing out that. I'm saying that if we want more participation at these meetings, maybe we should start having presentations on it. Just a thought.
Can you text out a link to the meeting? That's not an idea too.
I was in the story we're talking.
Oh, yeah, like
Yeah.
an hour before the meeting starts or something, in case anyone wants to click on it.
What do you guys, this beneath looked up, it looks like we can just do a text message.
Yeah, why don't you just
Yeah,
text
because
every time,
I mean, we have a
reminder,
meeting next week.
our meeting's in an hour.
So we have a takeaway from this meeting that we're going to text out the agenda and the notice, not the official notice, but a reminder about the line by line on March 15th.
And that morning, you could text the link how to watch it. or
And then
something.
people are gonna tell us they're texting too much, but that's okay, we'll try.
Well, don't text them all the time, but maybe just
No, they
like the
want
day of the meeting, just text people the link to the meeting, because a lot of time people.
All we can do is try.
Or link
and
to the meeting.
if we
Just, I think
see-
the link to the meeting is better than, they know where the agenda is by now.
Mhm.
Just send a link to the meeting, so you can literally click on it and watch it on your phone.
Yeah.
If I get a link, I'll
Send
click
it
on
to
it.
my kids.
I need. Always like send me the link.
They're two of the 60 people.
There's 60 people on this.
16.
Or 16.
I bet if you texted a link out,
I
like half hour before the meeting starts, people would watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have our
We have marching
Yeah.
orders.
marching orders and how we should
Okay.
proceed.
So now we're going to move on to our policy readings.
It's like 14.
And they're all first readings. Okay, we're starting with the first reading of policy 4321.1, provision of special education services in the least restrictive environment.
Motion to waive.
Second.
Favor.
This is our requirements for to ensure that our special education students are literally in their least restrictive environments. This is a required policy. We changed the language that was recommended to be more inclusive and changed the typo. Okay, we'll bring that one back.
Thanks.
Thank you. This next is a first reading revision policy 4321.02 school-wide free referral approaches and interventions.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second, all in favor? This is an additional required policy where we changed RTI to MTSS.
And I was gonna say, a lot of these that we're going to see are all coming out of the PPS office. They were all part of the process of looking through all of these, making any recommended changes. These are all required. And as all this went through legal. So these were less, I wanna say, on the policy committee and more on like legal things that we have to have in place for our students.
These are like 2000.
Yes.
Yes, with like an update on the laws that go through, like RTI is dated. MTSS is like the new buzzword instead.
So we'll bring that one back. Next one is first reading of availability of alternative format instruction materials for students with disabilities 4321.6.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second,
All in favor? This is another required policy.
and this is just, as the title states, whatever instructional materials the teachers are using, like books or anything, if a student has a need for it in a different format, that we are providing it for them. So that would include, like, for example, if someone had limited vision, it would be Braille, anything along those, or larger font, and that would be provided from the district.
The only thing I see on here, Carmen, is that there's number 9, it just has to be slashed at the bottom. Before the words cross-ref.
Okay.
And bring that one back. The next is first reading policy 4321.9, declassification of students with disabilities.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second,
Question about that one. It says that a student could be declassified and the CSE could say that they can use old assessments. So how does the district ensure students aren't declassified based on outdated evaluations if they're not using new assessments?
I would suppose that would be more question for PPS.
Yeah,
To
I
answer.
don't know, Mike, can you answer that by any chance?
Stephanie, what paragraph are you looking at?
It is reevaluation, that first paragraph. The CPSC members may determine after reviewing existing evaluation data that no additional information is needed to determine the student's continued eligibility for services. I just want to make sure, you know, like if they're using old test scores from the previous year, like it's not clear to me what they're using when they declassify.
So help me understand a little bit more about that, Stephanie.
So if I'm in a CSC meeting and it's for declassification,
Mm-hmm.
after reviewing the existing evaluation data, does that mean it's new evaluation data? Because when I read the rest of the paragraph, it says that no additional information is needed to determine the student's continued eligibility for services.
So,
I believe it's my understanding that if you look, we'll conduct a declassification evaluation of the student. That would I'm reading that as that would be that you conduct a new you probably run a new battery of assessments to make sure that that evaluation is accurate. We can always follow up with Chris to confirm that.
based on my knowledge of when this occurs for students, it's not like, oh, this student needs to
No,
be
you go
declassified.
through, you go through and everyone's.
And
at
it's
the
usually
CSC.
over a year-long process as well. Or within
I
a
just
year.
want to make sure the parents know they have the right to request more evaluations, and it said so at that meeting, if they don't.
But yeah, parents should definitely be involved in that, that's,
Well, yeah, they are, they're there.
they're there.
Can you just ask Chris?
Hmm?
What
Will do.
I mean, It's an exit evaluation, what test scores they use.
I can ask what test scores are used if it's the most current, but also to make sure that parents have the right to have clarification on that. If this is what I'm hearing is the main question.
Policy says that the parents have the right to request another evaluation.
And
I want to make sure they know that.
I'm gonna also put out there, it's not a test score, so it's not.
Right.
Well, it's psychological, it's.
Yeah, so those-
ethical, it's
well,
teacher reports.
And
There's numerous factors.
they use their own testing
Right,
materials, but it's not like a test score. It's not like, oh, if I use Wilson or something, oh, you passed or failed. So it's not a test
or
score.
our other policy
It's-
says what we're using, right?
Yes, but it's not a score necessarily, it's the growth
No,
from
but,
there.
I
It's
mean,
not necessarily like, oh, you get to this score, you're automatically
really, it's
classified.
usually. Well, that's actually a good question. I mean, is it grade level or is it a growth score like you're saying?
But it would be growth score for being, it's not like, oh, I'm just trying to find the proper ways to word it,
So we
because it's
use
just,
iReady, so if
iReady's not gonna be what they're using that's used in the general class, all students are taking that, not all, but most students are taking that, that is not what is used to I can tell you, that's not what's gonna be used, there's other testing that is specific to the PPS department that they're using, there's other programs, so I wish there's still, I'm just going off, like one is like Wilson or
It's the
something.
question. I mean, I'm approving it. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
well, we're not approving it tonight,
Make sure we.
we're just reading first reading, so we can bring that back for the second one, yeah.
Yes, I will bring that back. That's what I was doing offline. I was typing to make sure I captured what we're going to be asking as a follow-up.
The next one is policy 4321.12, timeout and physical restraint of all students.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second,
Favor? This is another required policy. I think this is just the wording. We don't have this policy.
no,
This is a new policy for Henry Hudson, although it is a required policy. And it talks about touching and physically.
there's also a regulation that we're gonna read after that goes into more detail.
So all of our staff members who come in contact with students, special education students, are trained. We will have trained in what's called handle with care training, which is how to, if there is a need to restrain, it's done safely, and there is strict reporting after any type of restraint as well. And so that's both safety for the student and the staff member as well.
We'll bring that one back. The next one is first reading policy 4321.12-R, timeout and physical restraint of all students regulations.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second,
All in favor?
so we just looked at the policy, this is the regulation which goes into more detail about all of those, such as location, and the physical, how you would, restrain.
Yeah, this one outlines what you can and cannot do, and timeout, use of timeout, physical requirements for the spaces used for timeout. So it gets really into the.
And it goes into what Mike was talking about as well, with the training that, that goes through. And also then how it's documented and stored, parent notification. This is also, again, just with the policy, not something that we had. Yeah, so this is new.
Yes, we'll bring that back. First reading policy 4321.12E.1, timeout and physical restraint of all students exhibit.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second,
All in favor?
so this is just a template of a letter that would be sent out to the parents notifying them about the restraint that, or timeout that happened.
Next is first reading policy 4321.12-E.2, timeout and physical restraint of all students and other exhibit.
Motion away from reading.
Second, all in favor? And this is just an incident report that has all of the information about location, time, where, like, when it happened, what happened, who was there, who observed it, who was part of any of the pieces from there.
Mike, where does all of this get filed and with whom when it's done?
I have to follow up with Chris specifically, but definitely it has to get filed within the district, within special education. And I believe the nurse will receive, if we scroll down, I believe it may even say who. So it's, yep,
We
it's,
go back to the regulation. It does state there that the documentation will be reviewed as necessary. Like you said, by supervisory personnel, school nurse, other medical personnel, and the documentation will also be made available to the state education department upon request.
I wanted to call that out. Thank you. Okay, the next one is first reading policy 4321.13 preschool special education.
Motion away from that.
Second. Favor.
Again, this is just a requirement and it goes through, if we needed to have, if a child needed to have early intervention and how it happens, where it happens, and what the district is responsible for.
How does this change our responsibility currently? We didn't have this policy.
We didn't have this one before, because I'm wondering if we didn't necessarily have a preschool too.
for special preschool special education. I'm assuming even before I was here, it had to have been, but it's not directly tied to any UPK item. This is totally separate from that. And there wasn't anything that when we had special education review it that they brought to me that said they'd have to change. So when I ask for special ed or any administrator to review a proposed policy, I ask them, please review to make sure that it's in line with what we are currently doing, or if it is suggesting an alternative change to our practices, if that is recommended, or if it's going to cause any anything that we need to have further discussion on. And there was nothing that came back from, there were 2 individuals who reviewed this from the special ed department, and they did not make any indication to me that we would have to drastically change our current practices.
Okay. Okay, the next policy is first reading revision policy 4327 homebound instruction.
Motion to read.
Second,
All in favor? This is the one that keeps on coming back.
yeah, this one, the time changed again.
Yes.
Trying to remember the numbers now. I know before it was the 15 hour, it was 15 hours per week, elementary 10, I believe those numbers were increased, if I remember correctly.
Because the entire thing was struck out and then we had to replace it with all.
Yeah, now it's 15 for secondary, for at least 3 hours per day. Elementary now is 10 hours per week for at least 2 hours per day.
And just as a clarification on that, that does not have to occur during the illness, the hospitalization, the homebound assignment, or the suspension. Students are entitled for the number of days that they miss school due to any one of those reasons for homebound assignment to receive that even if they return to school. So it's there to help them catch up if they did miss that as well.
And it also defined a little bit more because we just had health and disciplinary issues, and this defines a little bit more as to what those are. So that if someone needed clarification, it's there.
Okay. That one, this next one is the first reading of visitors to school regulation 1240./R. The regulation is intent. The Board of Education has authorized.
Motion away from reading.
Second.
All in favor?
So
So
point
this
of,
was-
point of privilege, or sorry, Mila.
No, go ahead, you can go first.
So this was in response to, this is this was a regulation we adopted in May of last year in an effort to ensure that any visitor coming into our school was properly screened. And as we know, regulations are the articulation of the policy into practice. So what we found is that in that practice, we want it's between having our schools be safe and secure in those inviting spaces. We have found that at certain events, particularly large events, the process that we had due to lack of resources and the actual regulation itself was detrimental to the end goals of what some of those large events were, such as trying to create community, trying to make everybody feel welcome. We wanted to adjust our regulation to make it still have that balance of safety and security, but we found that we needed to adjust it in a way. Particularly, we will always have, whenever we have students in the building during the instructional day, and when we have large numbers of staff available, we will have people have to be processed through the visitors management system. We are evaluating how specifically we will handle large events, such as an event where we have multiple schools coming for, say, a cheerleading function or a sporting event, or a music event at night. So we are currently working with our security coordinator, Amanda, to see what other districts are doing, what we can do given our physical plant and our physical layout of how we can achieve that balance. So one of those items was to propose that we have additional screeners on hand. Other recommendations will come from actual practices. All of our building emergency response plans have how we handle visitors to school during large events after school hours. So we've had our building emergency response teams review those. And a component of that is to include signage at those events stating the expectations for behavior and security posture.
Yeah, so one of the things to add to that is, we wanted it to be consistent and like have it our clear expectations so people understand when this should be occurring and what they need to gain access to the building during the day.
Yes, very good point. One thing that has come about within the past 2 months is that as we update our building use form and we are transitioning to an electronic version of that, we do need to include our security staff to make sure that they are aware of, is this an event that we need to have security monitors available? And we do have in our contract with our security monitors the ability to flex their hours.
Final reading is policy 00000, educational flashing and mission statement.
Motion with.
Second.
On favor. Mike, do you want to talk about this for a second? How we got here with putting this up?
So when we talk about our mission statement, this is what the district uses to ensure that we all have a common belief, a common understanding, a common language to speak when we talk about what we want our district to be. So I often say a vision is what our hopes and dreams are to be, what we want to be in the future. Our mission is what we do day to day. So what we had done is the board had reviewed this in earlier meetings in the year. We had brought this back to our site-based teams and asked them to provide any feedback. And as of yet, we have not received any feedback. We asked multiple times because we wanted to make sure people had, this is the heart of what we do. This is who we are. This is what we do day to day. So we asked our site-based teams to look at this multiple times, and there were no suggestions provided. So we and the policy committee are recommending that this is the adopted mission of the district.
So we will bring this one back again, but this is how it is currently. Okay. Here we
I guess, wasn't there something written about in the strategic plan that was last year, or is it ordinance with others?
The strategic plan, mission and vision were not ever officially rolled over into this district's district's mission and vision. And that's
Never
why,
adopted it.
that's why we landed on going out to site base, figuring it out, seeing what the community thought. So we'll bring that back next week. That's our last policy of the night. Next is committee reports. I don't necessarily have any committee reports. I just want to give a plug for the Wizards this weekend on Saturday evening. They're coming and tickets are on sale online, and that's a fundraiser for the HHC app, and usually a lot of fun. Oh, and fashion show tickets are on sale for the high school fashion show. That's the following March 7th, and then the weekend after that is the high school play. And the weekend after that is the middle school play.
Yep.
So big, very, very busy March, everyone. Go online, buy your tickets for all the different events to celebrate our kids.
Second grade dance, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of stuff going on in March.
The middle school's also doing a parents' night out that is sometime in
April.
soon.
I want to say maybe April.
I think it's
March 28th.
I think
March
at the
28th.
firehouse.
Yeah, I think it's March 28th.
Another March event?
Yeah,
I think it's the end of March though.
the tickets
March.
already started on Shutter Ups.
All right, and then the next, any other committee reports?
And I went to the,
Technology.
yeah, the technology committee, sorry, I'm losing my words at this hour. And as Vinitha summarized, most of the chatter was about the transition from printers not being in the classroom to being the centralized cloud printing, which is a big transition, mostly for the elementary teachers. I think it's hard for them because they have a lot of stuff in front of them and miss the ease of. And then there was a lot of talk about the laptops, and someone suggested in their district, the school pays for the insurance for all the laptops. I think it's Croton, actually. That's what Croton.
It's for student laptops. It's a number of districts, and it's I actually started the model in Pelham in 2013. Number of districts do it, and it is quite an expenditure. And it is a transition, as Trustee Bodine has said.
I think just for like the middle school, she had said, it would be like a 30 grand kind of payment. But it would cut down on, so right now they have tons of kids that go in every day, take loaners that don't have insurance and don't, that they have to pay for it. So she's gonna get any more numbers.
I feel like that's an unfortunate part of when you provide a one-to-one.
Correct. Yeah.
That's part of the risk you take when you provide a one-to-one Chromebook experience. And parents don't take out insurance. I don't know, maybe we need to push it a little more.
Welcome up with like a payment plan, like you can only get a loaner if you're paying towards the repairs. Even if it's $5 a week or something.
Then the kids are not, then they aren't ready to learn because they don't have Chromebooks, and then that money appears.
There aren't enough loaners, but we can't just have infinite number of loaners. I think there are 2 per class. So, for whatever reason, people come in without my kids never leave theirs at home or uncharged, so I wouldn't know, but.
Mine does.
I was being sarcastic, because they always do. But, yeah. I think they are. They are.
All right, so I think that.
My committee report.
It's a great committee report.
Sorry, thank you so much, Lori, for
You're welcome. We put a lot of work into it. It's a good committee report. Thank you. I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?